Greetings, I'm Herb Babcock. I'm here sitting in the backyard of my home in Ann Arbor. I'm part of the viral glass exhibit hosted by Habitat Galleries, and they asked that we'd give a brief introduction to where we're coming from. It's not been a normal year at all because of the pandemic, and one reason for this is obviously a way to keynote that in a historical context. So I'm going to go out to the studio and show you around out there. We were fortunate when we moved to Ann Arbor to be able to get an acre, and they allowed me to build a studio in the back end of it. So this is a piece done from the mid-80s called Oneida with the glass block series. And anyhow, having an acre Ann Arbor was quite unique, and I was able to build a pole barn studio. It's about a little bit more than half of the space I used to have in Oxford, Michigan, which was an industrial space. But now I just have a brief walk out back. I have enough power to run a large kiln, not as big as the kilns I had before, but it's a really nice space. You can see some of the rocks, for those of you who know how I used to use rocks extensively in my works. They're all collected sort of from field rows in different places around the country, and I inventory them until it comes time to use them. So I will give you a quick sweep of the studio. As I said, it's 1,200 square feet. It's a grinding, polishing area, panels, odds and ends of wood, and then all my various steel. I collect odds and ends of steel from other areas. This is the glass storage, sheet storage. As you know, many of you know, I do laminated sheet, cast with billet in order to get the color responses I want. Work table, sheet metal storage, glass billet storage and other, and continuing on. This is my large kiln. It has an interior of 4 by 5 feet, so I can still do relatively large castings. This is my high-low table. I use it predominantly for making the molds and also working on the molds. This is plaster that just came out, and I'm prepping it, carving it before casting. This is one that's been cast earlier. I'll talk about that later. More storage in the back. This is my main pride, a high-low, walk behind. I can still pick up 3,000 pounds with the touch of my finger or gesture of my hand. Mold making material, more storage. There's a walnut log, 2 walnut logs, which are probably over 50 years old. I keep thinking I'm going to carve them, so I nurse them along. There's a tablet piece from the the mid-90s, a series I did, and another couple odds and end pieces, and then that's. So what I'll do next is show 3 or 4 sculptures and talk about them, and I'll start off with the piece called Premonition. It was the piece that was selected for the show. So I set the sculpture up on my studio patio so we can get another view of it with natural light. This is another piece I have in my studio called Pillared number 44. Veneer of gold ruby on clear with fabricated steel and a natural field stone. This piece really enjoys to have the sun behind it. Matter of fact, one of the nicest compliments I ever had was a couple collectors said they had a piece at the end of a hallway, and they said when the sun was going down, Babcock was going to sleep. So they really realized that it was a piece that could experience the daily ritual. This piece is called Vortex 14. Bronze, stone, cast glass with a gold ruby veneer of glass. And this has the optical holes in the glass contrast to the real hole. And then in the bronze itself, holes that permeate into the dark. And the wondering what the vortex is. It's that permeating the unknown and wondering what the transition will bring about. In talking about how clay has been important to my work, the mid-90s I did this tablet series, which was where the clay itself was the main pretext for what the piece would be about. Early civilizations, clay was the primary recording device for many things, and we know about how civilizations were at that time period because the permanency of those tablets that survived. For here, I do the clay image response. It is about storytelling to a certain extent. Mold is made, a rondelle is spun out, dropped under the mold, and backfilled with clear. So the clear sort of permeates the colorative sense and allows it to be a little more expressive in terms of a full contextual story. So in finishing up, I'll talk a little bit about what the primary sculpture, the viral sculpture Premonition is about in terms of how it addresses the issues of the exhibit. Normally, well, and here too, the glass element is a little bit, takes on the essence of a head issue. It always rides above whatever gesture is below, and the gesture below usually connotates a poise. And with the metal element, it normally has a little more luster or color to it. So here I really enjoyed the making of the forms in terms of the sculptural gesture and how it relates to the image above, sort of holding, encapsulating. But when it came time to applying color, I actually had a blue powder coat put on. And the irony was that it didn't look right. And all I can say, this was in the middle of last summer. I was preparing this piece for a show that was going to be in the Kessel Arts Center in St. Joseph. And the color didn't fit the form, I would actually say in terms of temperament of the time. Because I felt in unconscious way that things were not about joyous color, but were rather flat. A elegant gesture, but shrouded. And so first I applied the lacquer, clear coat. It was too much of a luster, so I went to a satin coat. That still was too much of a luster. And then I found an even lower flat coat. And that was the color that matched the patina, the gun blue patina, with the low luster lacquer, is what made the piece work for me in terms of the relevant time, being the pandemic. So in a way, it was an unconscious resolution that responded to the times. So in closing, I'd like to thank Habitat Galleries and Mr. McFadden for allowing me to be part of this very esteemed group of artists who have reflected on this very unique time period we have been going through. And I wish everyone well. Good day.